Mr. Jones Chance. Councilmember Whitcomb. Mayor Pro Tem Brown. Councilmember Somerville. Mayor Richardson. Councilmember Morgan. Councilmember Simmons. I present with the bill. Second. Microphone. Support. Might be muted. End of section 7, resolution. And an additional public comment.
P. That means often refused. Hard to submit. They are subject to be destroyed. That without remedy. These that being often refused. Hard to submit. They are subject to be destroyed. That without remedy. This is that from the courthouse. About issues of slavery. Violence, division, we the community agree and we expect to be yes.
anyone on the attendees list would like to make public comment, please do so by raising your hand, and you'll have 3 minutes to address council. Yeah, that's why you will need to speak into the microphone clearly.
Mr. Clark, now is time for you to provide your presentation.
Okay, very good. Can you guys hear us all right? I think there appears to be some audio issues that we can't hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, excellent. All right, I'm going to share my screen. If you give me one moment. Is everyone able to see this? Okay, so good evening. My name is Daniel Clark. I am the signing principal on the City of Ypsilanti audit engagement. Tonight, I also have with me Dan Merritt, who was the manager on the audit for June 30th of 2021. A couple of the items we want to go over tonight. I'm going to do an introduction of the rest of the team members. We do have some required board communications. We have some financial results that we want to go over. Then talk about some upcoming accounting pronouncements and then open it up for any questions. I know Dan's going to be presenting a portion of the slides too. So if I could actually have him unmuted as well, that would be appropriate.
Can you all hear me okay?
Okay. All right, I introduced myself and Dan, and then we also had one senior on the engagement, Taylor Schaefer. So Taylor has also been on the engagement for several years as well as me. Dan was new to the team this year and was a big part of putting together your annual financial statements. So the required board communications, similar to last year. Number one, we are happy to state that we did issue an unmodified or a clean opinion on your June 30th, 2021 financial statement. So that's exactly what you would be looking for in audit terms. That's the highest grade that a financial statement can receive. Number two, we are asked to communicate any new accounting pronouncements that were adopted during the year, and GASB 84 related to your fiduciary activity was implemented. What that did mostly, the biggest change in your financial statements is it moved your health care fund out of your internal service funds, and a pension trust fund was set, or I'm sorry, yes. Was that a question?
Sorry, our internet went out briefly. So we've missed the internet presentation.
getting questions up here. Or asking, do you need a break to maybe try to learn something?
The internet is not as good here as it is at City Hall. And so it's really hard for us to have unstable internet connections while we're here. But
Is
this
there
is going to happen again.
a way for us to support those into presentations?
I don't believe so, but our attorney would have to say.
Not in the middle of the meeting, no. All right, let's go on. Thank you, Mr. Clark. So nobody. Council, we will take a break until we can get.
Sorry about that, Mr. Clark, you can run your presentation.
Mr. Clark, can you hear us now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you. The meeting's been called back to order, so please go
Okay.
ahead with the presentation. Thank you.
You'll have to reshare your screen, just to let you know.
Okay, thank you. All right, is that visible? Okay, so I'm going to go back to where we were. So just talking about number 2, I already talked about the unmodified opinion was given. Number 2, we did implement, or the city implemented GASB 84 related to fiduciary activity. And most of that related to moving the OPEB internal service fund out into an OPEB, other post-employment benefit trust fund, which is now presented on your financial statements as a trust fund, which was new this year related to that new standard. We also assessed your accounting estimates, and that would relate to things such as depreciation expense, any allowances on uncollectible accounts, those assumptions used to calculate your other post-employment benefit liability and your pension liability. We assess those and deem those all to be reasonable. We're also happy to say we encountered no difficulties while performing the audit this year. We appreciate Reagan and his staff and the city for providing all required documents, answering all our questions, and felt like they did a good job in preparing for the audit. We're also happy to state that there were no material misstatements. So in essence, the records that were provided to us were material in all aspects. There were no material adjustments that were needed. So again, that speaks to the high quality of the financial information that's coming out of the finance office. So again, thanks to the finance staff there. We did have one uncorrected immaterial misstatement, and what that related to was prior year parking receivables, which my understanding is this year the city implemented a new software that tracked both current and prior year parking fees that have been unpaid. So there was a prior amount that had not previously been recorded on the city's book, which are currently now being recorded properly. Again, it was not material, and that was one of the items noted. And then lastly, we are happy to state that there were no material weaknesses, significant deficiencies, or even other matters which rose to the level of documentation. So again, speaks to the high quality of the financial records of the city. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dan to present a couple of the slides, and then I will end the presentation after he's finished.
Good evening, everyone. We're just going to run through really quickly the changes in assets, liabilities, and major balance sheet categories. On the slide in front of you, you'll see sort of the major asset and deferred outflows categories for the city and the changes between the prior fiscal year and the current fiscal year. I just want to walk through these really quickly, sort of give the broad strokes on what would be different between this year and last year. Cash investments went down by approximately $1.4 million. Governmental funds don't have to present cash flow statements, so we look to other areas of financial statements to try to say what explains this. And for most municipalities, it's results of the fund performance and its payments on long-term debt or long-term obligations. For the city, you paid down approximately $3 million in debt, had an approximately $1.5 million positive result in your general fund. Thus, your cash and cash equivalents, the approximate change was the net effect of those two activities. Your receivables declined by about $4 million. That's primarily related to your involvement in the lease receivable with the YCUA. That is operates on a regular payment schedule, and so the activity that is fairly predictable year over year. Your net pension asset, for several years now, your employee retirement system has had a net pension asset, which is a good thing for the city. It means that the pension plan is at least fully funded and in fact a little overfunded. Like most other pension plans, you had strong investment performance during the fiscal year, and so that net pension asset increased even a little bit more than it was in the prior year. Net capital assets talks about your sort of major capital asset activity. This is infrastructure, buildings, equipment with a useful life of more than 1 year. The city purchased an amount of infrastructure equipment as it does in usual years and depreciated existing equipment. So it had a fairly normal activity to see a small increase in net capital assets. You also have deferred outflows related to your pension and OPEB. I'm not going to describe these in too much detail, but conceptually, these would be similar to having a deferred tax asset. They're primarily related to your pension and OPEB plans. So the GASB says if you have certain types of activity, those have to be amortized onto your income statement over a long period of time. It's a more of an accounting treatment. Details of those are available in the notes to the financial statements under the pension and OPEB sections. Let's go to the next slide here. Accounts payable and other liabilities. This is mostly related to your trade accounts payable, and these fluctuate in a sort of standard fashion depending on what projects are open. In particular, the primary difference, we didn't lose everyone here. I just lost the city council feed. Is everyone still with me here?
I can hear you, Dan, but I don't know if they're.
Yeah, I'm concerned that we lost the live feed, which is the same thing that happened last time. So perhaps I'll pause until. Looks like I can see everyone again. I can see everyone again, but I can't hear. Are we back?
City manager or is it on a time schedule? Could we ask to be schedule this for the next meeting?
I think the auditors, we talked to them about, Mayor, we talked to them about it, and they said they can move it to the next meeting. If,
I'm not even.
They can move it to the next meeting.
Okay. Communicate with them outside of here, possibly by text or a call. And we can move on to the next item.
Mr. Clark, can you hear me?
Yes,
Is it possible to reschedule your presentation for our next meeting on the 15th?
the 15th of March, or I'm sorry, April.
Of March. 2 weeks from today. Maybe we,
Sorry, yes, that may be possible. I can work with the clerk to reschedule that.
okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay. Are we gonna have the same?
Pyrotechnics part.
Okay, order, please. Order, please. Okay. Are we going to have the same difficulty with Miss Willis?
More than likely.
Okay, well, let's. Miss Willis, can you hear us? She's gone.
Good evening, Mayor Richardson. Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. We were having some difficulty before, but would you like to go on with your presentation? If we can.
Sure, and I apologize. Something is wrong with my Zoom where it won't let me show my face on my computer. So I can be real quick. I sent the presentation. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, council members. Thank you for allowing me to present. I do apologize that the miscommunication and I missed last meeting. But just quickly, if I can just share my screen, if that's possible.
I don't know that you, we're having difficulties, so I don't know that you would be able to share your screen.
Okay. Well, I'm here just to ask support from the City of Ypsilanti in regards to our YCS event series. Ypsilanti Community Schools puts on an annual 3 events for community, one being the Grizzly Soiree, which will be held at Growing Hope this year. And then Jazz in the Parking Lot on July 22nd. This is our 6th annual Jazz in the Parking Lot, which averages about 600 people. Last year we had around 45 vendors. And this year we have Gwen and Chuck Scales that is performing. And each year we just really try to build this event up for community support, but also to highlight the different organizations and things that Ypsilanti Community Schools does. And then we are bringing back the Back to School Bash. We did not have it in 2020 and 2021 due to the pandemic, but we are fully ready to bring this back to Prospect Park, where the last time we did have this event, it was over 1,200 people that came out and we gave over 800 backpacks. This is a very resource driven event. We have the Ypsilanti District Library. We have food gatherers out. Again, we feed all families, kids, doesn't matter what school district they go to, and that is the same for backpacks and school supplies. Right now, we have the support, a presenting sponsor is McDonald's from the Van Corporation. Monique Van, she is one of our presenting sponsors. We have Chartwell's, WCC, and again, all of the money that we take, we use to go towards the students, towards the backpack programs, but throughout the year, we also fund different projects. Just recently, we gave brand new books to Our Community Reads. We've supported the Village Project. Anything that, you know, that cannot be supported by general funds and certain grants comes through the money that we receive from sponsors. So the money just doesn't go to entertainment and things of that nature. It does help support the logistics of the event, but a majority of it, 75% of it, goes to students and community programming. Are there any questions? I know I went through that fairly quickly. I know I did send the presentation, and of course, we can always have an off conversation if there's need for additional information. Inside of the presentation also are the sponsorship levels. I did send that to Mayor Richardson too. You know, again, they start from 5,000 and go all the way down to 500.
Good evening, Ms. Willis. How are you? Mr. Willis, how are you?
Good, thank you.
I was wondering what the average cost was for the soiree.
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing you.
I was wondering what the average costs were for those 3 events: the Grizzly Soiree, the Jazz in the Parking Lot, and the backpack.
Sure. So the Grizzly Soiree, again, is low cost because we receive a lot of things in kind. So Lot G is going to be our caterer this year. They are located downtown, and they have 3 chefs that are Ypsilanti Public School alumni. So for that event, it's approximately $2,500. And that's really including the food, also the entertainment. We have Kenyatta Rashan. As most of you are aware, I do try to keep a lot of the business local and acts and just make sure that people in our community have an opportunity to participate. The Jazz in the Parking Lot, the total overall cost after everything is usually between $5,000 and $6,000. And that's including the staging, the acts, our staff that we have to pay for, cleanup, marketing, all of those things. And then the Back to School Bash usually is around And again, these are just numbers from the past because we haven't done it in the last 2 years, but again, we get a lot of in-kind donations, and that cost, if we're not having to purchase backpacks, usually stays under $2,500 total. And that is also including part marketing. So we do reach out to WJLB, and we do enrollment marketing for the school district along with the marketing for the back to school bash. And I just always want to be very clear, all of this is through sponsorship dollars that we receive from community support. It is not through general fund money through the school district.
This presentation is not in the agenda. The presentation in the agenda was for audit.
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time, so I don't know if that was a question towards me.
It was a question for you. I was asking, did you hear you say that you sent some a presentation or email to council, or just to myself and
If I'm kind of trying to read the text at the bottom to catch up with what you're saying. Did you ask if I sent an email to council?
yes, or did you send anything in writing as a presentation to council? I know you
So
said something.
Correct. Initially, I believe I sent it through our YCS community supporters, so I'm sure some of you may have received it, but then I believe I sent it to you, Mayor Richardson, and then just this evening, I sent the presentation to Andrew prior to the meeting.
Okay, thank you. And we're sorry that you're not able to share your screen, but our children. And I know that we are going down right to 5,000. I've been looking at so many of those scales for other things. So could you repeat that again, please?
I'm sorry, were you asking? I can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
I can hear, yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. I was saying that that you were asking for a donation from the city to help with the school events. And if you don't mind, rather than me trying to getting them all mixed up, because as I said, I've been looking at any number of scales for giving recently. Would you tell the amounts? I believe that you said the platinum was 5,000 and went down from there to 500.
Yes, that is correct. So inside of the presentation, I did include a link, and so I can just give you a quick rundown. So the presenting sponsor is 5,000, and it comes with several different marketing opportunities through the school district, including banners at the football field and inside the gym during both seasons, sports passes, Facebook, and we do a lot of boosting of posts during these events, especially during back to school bash and jazz in the parking lot. So if you were to become like, let's just say a $2,500, $5,000 sponsor, we would include you in the marketing as when we were doing radio ads and stuff like that. But it goes, the different levels are 5,000, 2,500, 1,500, 1,000, and 500.
Okay, thank you. And would you possibly maybe send us the presentation if council wants to see that, since we can't see it tonight, and we will bring this up at our next meeting for discussion and make a decision?
Sure, yes, I can do that this evening.
Okay, thank you. Council, would you like that?
Yes.
Okay, I'm getting all thumbs up over here. So if you would do that, we've heard it. We will look at the presentation and we will put it on the agenda.
Okay, thank you. And should I just send it to Andrew or to you?
Please send it to Andrew and he will forward it to the rest of council.
Okay, perfect.
All right. Thank you so much for coming out to share with us, and thank you for all the work that you have done for YCS and the work that you have done for YCS. Lots of it has already just kind of bubbled over and spread throughout the city. So appreciate all the work that you do.
Thank you, Mayor Richardson.
Yeah.
Thank you, council members for considering this ask.
Everybody's saying thank you. I don't know if you can hear them. Okay, thank you. We look forward to that. Okay, let's move on to the agenda, the consent agenda. We do have that.
Resolution number 2022 -046 approving the consent agenda. Resolved by the council of the city of Ypsilanti that the following are approved. Resolution number 2022-047 approving the minutes of February 2022. Resolution number 2022-049 approving ordinance 1385 and ordinance to amend chapter 132 ordinance entitled Amendment Zoning Modifications, second reading. Resolution number 2022-050 approving ordinance 1386 ordinance to amend chapter 7 marijuana, city code of ordinances, second reading. Resolution number 2022-051 approving the use of indoor cannabis.
Support. It's been moved and supported in unison. In unison. Okay. Would you call the roll, please, Mr. Lincoln?
Councilmember Wilcoxen,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Brown. Yes. Councilmember Somerville,
Yes.
Mayor Richardson,
Yes.
Councilmember Morgan,
Yes.
Councilmember Simmons,
Yes.
Mr. Jones Chance.
Yes.
Motion approves unanimously.
It was Somerville and Simmons both said yes. Okay, thank you. Resolution 2022-052. Thank you.
Resolution number 2022-052, resolved by the City Council of the City of Ypsilanti approve the attached amendment to the Ypsilanti Community Utility Authority and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign on behalf of the city, subject to the city attorney. I so move.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any questions, discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Halinga, would you call the roll, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Somerville,
Yes.
Mayor Richardson,
Yes.
Councilmember Morgan,
Yes.
Councilmember Simmons,
Yes.
Mr. Jones Chance.
Yes.
Councilmember Wilcoxen,
Yes.
motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Resolution number 2022-053, approving a stipend amount for Ypsilanti Community Utility Authority Board of Commissions. You have that one,
Yep.
Ms. Simmons, please read it.
Yep, so resolution number 2022-053, resolved by the Council of the City of Ypsilanti that the City Council of the City of Ypsilanti approved a stipend for Ypsilanti Community Utility Authority in the amount of $75 per meeting. I so move.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any questions or comments? Okay. Mr. Jones Chance.
Yeah, I mean, I seem to recall when we talked about this before that the inflation adjusted rate would be something like $250 per meeting. I know we don't have anyone, oh, we do. I just wonder if this seems enough. I mean, considering where it probably should be, I mean, it started at $50 and was it 1974, 76? And we're, yeah, so we're creeping up to $20. Just doesn't seem. I mean, obviously it doesn't add up, but is that enough? Do the members think that's enough?
Good evening, council. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm having some audio issues of hearing everything. So thank you. I didn't even hear the last agenda item. The audio is pretty tough. The $75 stipend was approved by the YCA Board of Commissioners on January 26th and also approved by the Ypsilanti Township on February 15th. That amount, Mr. Chance, if I could elaborate some, was set to be in an amount that is a reasonable increase based upon what the current stipend was, and it was extended to additional meetings that commissioners attend, such as water bill hearings, personnel meetings, and finance committee meetings. So that was, we identified a middle of the road amount that would be paid for those additional meetings, and received a favorable response from the YCA Board of Commissioners on that proposal.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Can I ask a follow-up question to that?
Yes.
Is there a number of meetings that one can attend in a month that would put a cap or a certain number, like 3 meetings? Could there be a regular meeting, a water bill meeting, and a different hearings meeting in the same month potentially?
Potentially, yes, but very rare. The personnel, essentially the stipend covers 3 types of meetings that the commissioners may attend outside of the monthly board meetings. The personnel meeting may be called once per year, depending on certain issues that arise at the authority. The finance committee meets typically semi-annually or twice per year. And water bill hearings currently have been suspended due to YCA is not performing shutoffs. When we were performing shutoffs, we may have a handful of those a year. They're typically scheduled in a bulk amount, and the hearing officers are brought in to hear a number of cases on a given day. So I hope that answers the question.
It does, and thank you. You guys deserve what you get, so I appreciate your patience, and I support this increase.
Thank you.
Thank you, council.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, Mr. Lingo, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Somerville,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Brown, Councilmember Morgan,
Yes.
Councilmember Simmons,
Yes.
Mr. Jones Chance.
Yes.
Councilmember Wilcoxen,
Yes.
Mayor Richardson,
Yes,
motion carries unanimously.
thank you. And we want to thank all of the workers, all of our representatives and the workers there on the Yucca, at Yucca and the Yucca board for all the work that you have done and the work that you're continuing to do. We really appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Richardson, and thank you, council.
A resolution number 2022-054, approving the project allocation of the Washtenaw County Road millage funding.
I have that. For my iPad is going to be a circle thing for me to get the language. Okay. Resolved by the Council of the City of Ypsilanti, whereas the city is eligible for approximately $140,000 in Washtenaw County road millage funding in 2022. And whereas City Council previously decided to complete a road rehabilitation project on North Washington Street, but the city is no longer able to complete this project due to road deterioration. And whereas staff has presented City Council with 3 alternative options to consider using the funding for. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Ypsilanti select option C and direct staff to take the necessary steps to initiate the selected option. And I so move. Or get to choose. A, B, or C.
Support.
It has been moved and properly seconded, and sounds like we have some discussion. Mr. Wilcox.
Isn't that how it works? Yeah. Something is placed in the space, and then if we vote it down, then you go with it. Correct? Is that something like, is that how it works?
Yes, it could be amended by a council member if they so choose to, but if you read that into the record, yes, that is what has been put on the table.
All right.
That's how it's done.
All right. Well, this is coming up a lot differently.
Is there any discussion or question?
Yeah, I just didn't follow this up.
I'll give us.
Why did that? Because I thought we spoke about it last time, we kind of gave consensus around something.
Yeah. That's how they're talking.
Okay, right now, this summer bill has been rolled. Right now. the summer bill.
Any other pools of money that can go towards any, and specifically C, because.
Could you speak more into the mic, please?
Sure. Are there any other pools of funding that can go towards C besides this road millage?
Yes, other pools of money could be used towards C, but the other pools of money also have limits on how that they could be used as well. So we could also draw from our regular major roads funding. We could draw from our general fund, but then that limits our ability to spend those dollars elsewhere. It's as you would with any funding decision, really.
Right, but with A and B, those wouldn't be funded from either any of those other places, right?
They could be. I mean, option B.
Okay.
Yes.
Ms. Wessler is still speaking.
Oh, he was.
Go ahead, Ms.
Okay.
Wessler.
So option B, which is use the funding to offset costs for another project. I mean, that's kind of the heart of your question. So this is funding that is meant for roads. We are using funding that is meant for roads currently, but this is coming from a different pot. It's Ron Crowley.
Yeah, so all of our road funding comes out of Act 51. And so all of these are actually eligible expenditures under Act 51. For the Washtenaw County millage project, or millage funding, my conversations with the county roads director have been that we can spend the money towards roads however we choose to do it. So all of these are eligible. we did have conversations with MDOT because I realize these are all state trunk lines. We have had conversations with MDOT where we discussed them funding that as an option, and they, due to timing and some various other reasons, told us that that was not going to happen.
So they won't fund the feasibility study.
Correct.
So if I understand you correctly, then C can be funded from the general fund or other road money. A and B can also be funded from other sources within the road funds.
So option A, we would only do if using this money. So think of it almost as a bonus project. So we have our normal Act 51 income. This is an additional $125,000 approximately that we get to use on additional road projects. So because it is a millage that we are not in control of, we've treated it like bonus. Does that help frame it?
Is this the same pool that was used for the Oakwood improvements last year?
Yes, and that we're planning to use for South Adams in 2 years.
So I remember when this came up, each ward got to pick their pet project for this thing, right?
Yes.
And so Ward 2 has already got theirs. Ward 3 is going to get theirs. And this is all about, oh, wait a minute, North Washington.
So Ward 3, we actually already got with East Cross resurfacing last year, 2 years ago. Right, it was done with the prior cycle of the millage, but it was recently done. And then also the next major project that's coming up here on River Drive is a Ward 3 project.
But out of the choices that we were given before last year, when it was like each ward picked a project to fit into this slot. So Ward 2's project has been finished. Ward 1, this is in Ward 3, or North Washington is in Ward 3, but Cross Street and all of them are throughout the city, right?
Yeah, so with when we originally talked about the county road millage funding, we elected to choose a project in each ward. For the round of funding that was, I believe it began in 2019, or no, it was 2020 through 2024. So of those 3 projects that were selected for the 4-year round of funding that we're in right now, Ward 2 is Oakwood project that was completed this year. Ward 1 is South Adams between Michigan and Catherine. There's a resurfacing. And then the project that was selected for Ward 3 was North Washington. I believe, I forget it's in the memo, but it was North Washington. And North Washington is the project that our engineers had advised us. The road has deteriorated to the point where we're no longer able to do a resurfacing, that the road condition requires a full reconstruction. And because the cost jumped up so much, it's the amount of money that we get from the road millage will not fully cover the cost of the project.
So that's going to have to be delayed. So rather than just rolling it into that cost of the more extensive work. Because that wasn't, I mean, while that was listed on the table, that wasn't one of these.
So if council's direction is for us to proceed with the reconstruction on that end of it, we can go through our budgets and double check that as well and apply the money towards that project. We'd have to use additional Act 51 funds to supplement it. But that is, I guess, a 4th option if council wishes to proceed.
Thank you.
Ms. Simmons.
Yes, I think unfortunately, I was out of town at the last meeting, so I wasn't part of the discussion that you had previously, but and while option C at some point in the future, I'm interested in pursuing that. I think because of the condition of our roads.
Could you talk more into the mic? We're learning that, yeah.
More?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No. So anyway, so option C, I think I wouldn't support that at this time. It's something in the future I would, but I think our roads are in such horrible condition that I would rather see us use this towards another, project now as kind of a bonus project, as Ms. Wessler said, or towards, money towards something else like option B, like the bridge or something that just makes more sense to me at this time. So I'm open for A or B, but I think it's C at this point. I feels like a less of a priority compared to some of the other things we could be doing.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
No.
No, you just turned it off.
Okay, I got it. All right. I wanted to clarify the way that I did the motion. I didn't do it because I was specifically beholden to something, but historically, I knew that when we have options, you have to place something in the spot. So I just not to offend anyone, I just put something there that I remembered from our conversation was a topic of conversation. So we can continue to discuss, and then the will of the body will make the decision. I just want to clarify.
Thank you. Ms. Summerfield.
This is for staff. Just, can you hear me? Okay, to clarify, the project that became ineligible, which is what led us back to this conversation, that was something that Anthony and I picked for our ward when everybody had a chance to pick a project for their ward.
I'm not sure who made the specific decision from council, but yes, it was decided by council.
And each ward members had the option to pick a project for their ward. Okay. I would like that kind of concept to be followed when we replace it. Just want to put that on the record. I support option C. And I talked a little bit about this at the last meeting. We always prioritize vehicles, and it's not often that we prioritize pedestrians. This is a project that all three wards will benefit from. It is very dangerous to cross near both slip lanes where the traffic is one way. Car speed way higher than what the speed limit's posted. And the only way to get to a safer walkable community is to start somewhere. And I honestly take this opportunity as like, this is a bonus. We should take the opportunity to prioritize pedestrians. It's been very loud and clear in Ward 3 that this is what residents in Ward 3 want. So I just would hope that we can prioritize those voices. They've been at many council meetings to talk about this in the past, so.
Thank you. Any other comments? Mr. Wilcoxon.
Sure. I get that. That's why I brought it up. The other two projects that were in that decision making were there. So we'll put that in 1 Ward 3 to get shortcutted on that. But this is part of the master plan as well, to go through and convert all those streets to 2 ways. And I've been looking forward to this since 2013. So while I agree with Jennifer that our roads are in really sad shape, this is a bonus, and we can do that. So I think they're all good options, quite frankly.
Mr.
Yeah, so, I mean, I get that we're considering it a bonus, but that it doesn't mean we should treat the funds cavalierly. We still have to be good stewards of the money, whether it's a bonus or not. With the thought of improving pedestrian safety, I wonder, are there maybe some other projects that we could do? I like the idea of turning, I like the idea of option C. I like the idea of putting in roundabouts at our slip lanes. That's proven to reduce traffic fatality. So, yeah, I guess it seems like option C, because there are no plans yet, would maybe give us some more flexibility in what those look like. My curiosity, though, is how much input would council have on that? And then sort of if we chose option C and a feasibility study is done, when does the planning for what it actually will look like begin? And then what's our role in that?
Hey, Ms. Somerville.
I think we, Brian, I think we did this, I don't know, someone can remember the timeline.
More into the.
Oh, sorry, before you, I think before you were on council, we actually passed a resolution. Council already approved the resolution that we would be removing those slip lanes and converting those intersections. So this, like, we've already taken that action as a body. This is like what we need to do next.
So would they be converted to other lighted intersections, or would they be? Okay, so not roundabouts.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, if we're talking about pedestrian safety, I don't really understand why we wouldn't. Okay, so that would, I guess, have to be a change. I mean, it still seems like option C gives us the most flexibility because it's not planned yet entirely anyway. Okay.
Okay, well,
So, I mean, I fully support pedestrian safety because that matters. I love, walking downtown. I love, I want this to be a walkable city. And, right, that's part of our master plan. So I know we're gonna get there, right, even with the slip lanes and things and, potentially the conversion from one way to two way. I guess I'm curious to know how much might this study cost? And, is it gonna exhaust the funds that maybe were set aside for the road? That's one question I have. For, whatever we had kind of set aside for the project that we can't do, or is that gonna exhaust, with this study, exhaust those funds, or it's like, oh, it only costs nothing, still have a little money to put someplace, or?
So the feasibility study, we're anticipating to cost somewhere between $100,000 and $200,000. It depends on the scope. We would have to put an RFP together, work with MDOT to see what they're looking for specifically and identify a scope. So it may be a little less or maybe a little more than $140,000.
Okay. And I understand, maybe if we were to say, like, well, let's look at option A or maybe option B, but off the top of your head, is there a project you say that would be, something that for us to visualize, I guess, like, hey, if we were going to fix this, maybe it would be this section of road, to give us something to kind of think about where we might use that amount of money to fix something in the same ward?
I mean, there's a large number of roads in the city that could be eligible for fixing. A lot of the projects that were identified in OHM's memo are roads that are at the point where if we do that mill and overlay process, it's going to save us, 5 times the cost from having to do a reconstruction. So there's a lot of roads in the city that are at that point. And of course, we do financial projections for our 202 fund and we actually, doing some of our budgeting today, found out that we maybe have a little bit more money than we anticipated. So we may be programming additional projects in the future and coming back to council too, to try to invest more money in a road system now before it further deteriorates.
Okay.
Another important thing to just kind of build on that is that $130,000 gets us about the length of road that you saw on Oakwood. So about 2.5 blocks, really. So just so you understand the scope.
Right. And so if I might understand that in your professional judgment, because I do trust, the knowledge you bring, both of you, in kind of the scheme of what our master plan is and the different options we have, that, I know you said there's no bad choices here, which, right, I agree, there's no bad choices, but it is a little bit hard for me not to want to fix the roads, because they are horrendous. And I do think that impacts pedestrian safety too, because we have some really horrible crosswalks, and that's part of the road. I mean, just, it's horrible. So anyway, I want to do what's going to, I guess, optimize. And so it's like, hey, this is an opportunity. So it'd be great if we could do this study now to help us move this other stuff along.
So the way we looked at it when we were doing the analysis for this is it's a, I guess, a matter of risk and potential benefit. Options A and B are fairly low risk. You know what you're getting. You put money in the road system, you're improving the road. Those projects, we can plan them very straightforward in a very straightforward way. Very low risk, but your benefits limited to a specific area. Option C has the potential to have a great benefit. Transferring the one ways to two ways could, create a lot of pedestrian safety improvements and make an improvement in that end of it. But, the other challenge of it is we don't really know what the feasibility study is going to come out and say. There may be some barriers that come out of it that are prohibitively expensive. There may be property acquisitions or hard decisions that we have to make with it. Part of the reason why we recommended it as an option to council is because of the timing of some of the other projects and some of the road funding and different things that are going on. It kind of ends up being a perfect blend of, if we're going to do it, the situation's probably not going to get a whole lot better to do it in. So, you're having MDOT's looking at doing a study of the reimagined Washtenaw corridor, looking at doing a major implementation of that, in potentially 2026. So this project would align with that. And there might be some synergy or some additional funding that's coming out of that. The other side of this that is helpful is we're having federal dollars, an influx of federal dollars that they're indicating are going to support projects like this, projects that look at complete streets, look at all the users of the streets. So there could be some opportunities for some funding if we do need to implement this project. And then the other thing that's coming up is that MDOT is this summer and next summer getting ready to do a significant road resurfacing project on many of the state trunk lines within the city. One of the, I guess, maybe concern ideas or things that we think may happen if we go through this feasibility study, MDOT may ask us to take over some of the state trunk lines in the city because they don't need them for two-way traffic anymore, because one road will go two ways. So the best time, if we were going to take over those roads, the best time to take over them is right after they were improved. So that way we can, make sure that they don't further deteriorate and cost us more money. So that's kind of the combination of things that makes it so, if you're going to do it, the timing is best now, but of course, we could find out through the feasibility study that it's not feasible.
Okay. No, thank you for that. I appreciate that extra perspective. I mean, I still think I have a little bit of a lean towards maybe more of an A or a B, but I can see where C might make sense and align with some of the other things that are upcoming. So, okay, thank you for that.
Mr. Morgan.
I didn't even hear everything said in July. At the beginning.
So in the beginning, I just put C there, if we amended a change, I just put something else.
Okay, I appreciate that. I don't see it on this particular layout, Mr. Ayers. Was there a project in Ward 3 on River Street between Michigan Avenue and Cross Street that they were considering doing?
We don't have one targeted. It is in the long range plan for Watts. But it is, I believe the condition of that road is scheduled where it's a reconstruct. So it's here.
Okay.
Another quick thing to keep in mind with North River is in talks with Yucca. One thing that we would want to do there is actually coordinate it with Yucca's improvements, because that's another targeted area for them as well.
Okay. If I had a vote, I guess I would vote for option A, since the project was supposed to be located in Ward 3. And I do think all of my council members made very clear positions on how option C could benefit us in the long run. I don't think it's the highest priority, even though I do think in the future it could lead to a lot of changes in our physical layout and increase pedestrian safety, but I think all of the options can. I do think, and since it's not bonus money, I do think the money should go for what it's intended to do. And option A, replaced with a similar project. And probably because of the last sentence of what it says, this option saves future dollars and will improve a section of the city's road system before it deteriorates further. And that's all I have to say about that one. Whatever project it is, I just vote A. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments?
Yeah, I just want to make clear that if you want to vote for A, then you need to make an amendment to that effect.
Oh, well, are we going to vote for C?
Well, we're trying to come to a conclusion of what we're going to put in there. And I would just like to make a comment. I drove up North Washington on Monday, or maybe Saturday or Monday, whichever. And North Washington needs work. It is really, really bad. I don't know if anyone else has driven up that street lately, but all the way up as I was driving from coming around there from Huron River Drive, and I believe that's Forest, from Forest to Hamilton. It is really in very bad shape, so we just need to do something about it. Ms. Somerville.
Yeah, I have a question for Ron and Bonnie, specific to the project that became ineligible. What's the plan for that now? Do we know how much it's gonna cost? Does that need to be assessed? Okay.
Yeah.
So sorry, Bill.
So we would need to reevaluate our estimates based on what the reconstruction costs would be. We anticipate them to be 5 to 6 times more than what was initially proposed. So it might be $500,000 or $600,000. So some of these roads are federal aid eligible, so we work to put them in Watts's long range plan to see, as federal funding comes out, becomes available. We're waiting to see what comes out of the new federal acts and how the state tends to allocate those funds, and we're going to make a plan from there.
Okay, so I guess taking aside the fact that there's infrastructure money sitting in Lansing to be given out to locals. If we were to just, pause on reassigning this and through the budget process, come up with a better number to actually improve the project that Anthony and I originally picked for the full cost, do you think we could get a number but when we approve the budget in June?
Yeah, I think we should be able to do that.
Okay, that makes the most sense to me. Just try to fix, because we're gonna have to fix that road. Still, I would still like to do option C, but at some point we're gonna have to fix it. I guess when something becomes ineligible, in the past has this happened, where a ward has picked a project and then it became ineligible? And then what happened next? Did they shelf it? Did they figure out a solution? Did they take money from somewhere else and come up with the full amount?
We could do all three. We could allocate additional funding or see if there's room in our 202 account to allocate additional funding to support the reconstruction. Or we could tentatively schedule it for the future, or we could shelf it. The way it has this happened in the past, I'm not aware of it happening, just because the county road village funding and some of the allocation processes were new for this recent round of funding. But I do know that over the last decade and a half, it has been the city's position to have council select the road projects that we bring forward and construct. So if council wishes, what I can do is I can get some updated numbers and an updated estimate from OHM. We can plug it into our 202 projections and see how it impacts our fund balance.
Okay, yeah. I think that would, I would actually like to see what that would cost.
Any other questions or comments? Mayor Pro Tem.
I have a comment because I just want to make sure that we all know what we're doing here. So I put a placeholder in there. If anyone wants to change it, you have to admit it. Otherwise, we will not work with it. So I just want to make sure. I just want to make sure everybody knows that. So, and then my second question is off of you.
And so then, thank you. My clarifying question for Councilmember Somerville now is, are you saying that you would want to forego picking something right now to get this information? Or are you saying in addition to us choosing something tonight, you also want that information from Ron and?
I think I want information from that first. I guess what I'm saying is I would like to table this and get more information on the project that became ineligible.
So are you offering that as a motion to table?
Anybody else? I don't know if anybody else is, okay. I move to table this agenda item to get more further information from staff on the project that became ineligible.
Support.
It's been moved and supported, that this motion be tabled to get more information for staff, allow them time to do more research. All those in favor? Oh, I'm sorry, we need a roll call on a table.
Table, if you table an item, it automatically goes on the next meeting or it dies.
I guess, how long does staff need?
We can talk to OHM. Hang on.
One thing that I do want to note with option C is that one thing that MDOT is working on with regards to the Reimagine Washtenaw study is something called the Planning and Environmental Linkages Study. MDOT has indicated to us that it is possible that they would be willing to perform that similar study for the expense of Hamilton and Huron and Washtenaw in Ypsilanti and sort of take it all on as one bite. But because they themselves are applying for funding in order to do that study, there's a timeliness element.
Okay, with the feasibility study.
So they basically need to know if we are going to move forward with the feasibility study sooner rather than later, but we don't have a firm timeline.
Is it? So can we get, is it possible to get more information by the next council meeting and then we can make a decision and have 4 options presented to us?
We should be able to get numbers for you by the next.
Okay.
Mr. Jones Chance.
Yeah, to clarify, does that mean that getting the feasibility study on option C would have an effect on our odds for the other 2 that MDOT wants to take on that you mentioned?
Can you clarify that?
Maybe. You mentioned, did you mention Huron and Hamilton as a part of the Reimagine Washtenaw deal?
So
It's like, is this a package or?
it would be separate but potentially packaged, if that makes sense. So that the 2 PEL studies would be separate, but they could apply for funding for both of them at the same time.
And so that brings me around to the question. So is not having a study already done for this, would that potentially affect our ability to get the other 2 done? Or the other projects done as a part of it?
It would not affect Reimagine Washtenaw status, but they would not move forward with the planning and environmental linkages study for Hamilton and Huron and Washtenaw and West Cross without knowing that the feasibility study was underway.
So there, okay, so yeah, there's some. Oh, that helps.
All right, Mr. Wilcoxon.
I have a historical question. How long have these been one-way streets? And who decided to make them?
Since the late 1960s, and I believe the city had a very large say in making them one way.
Okay, any other, we have a motion on the floor.
Motion for Councilmember Simmons. Based on the last information shared by staff, are you closer in support of option C?
I am.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I would like to rescind my last motion. If Councilmember Simmons-
That's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay, so you were drawing the motion
Yeah.
to table. Okay, council, may we have a motion to fill in the blank?
The
Or
blanks
do we
I call the
want to
question.
leave in the blank as it was filled?
I would like to call a question.
Support.
Okay, Mr. Is there a second to calling the question? Okay, that's been moved and second to call the question. Would you call for a vote on the calling the question, please?
So as the table was rescinded, this is on resolution 2022-054, the call the question for that. Mayor Richardson,
Yes.
Councilmember Morgan,
Yes.
Councilmember Simmons,
Yes.
Mr. Jones Chance, Councilmember Wilcoxen,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Somerville.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
All right, thank you. Now would you call the question on the motion as it was read?
Councilmember Morgan,
No.
Councilmember Simmons,
Yes.
Mr. Jones Chance,
Yes.
Councilmember Wilcoxen,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Somerville,
Yes.
Mayor Richardson.
Yes.
Motion carries with 6 yes, 1 no.
You're so persuasive. I'd like to say thank you to Mr. Akers and Ms. Westbrook for the
Yes.
information.
The details.
Yes,
that-
thank
that was
you
very-
for that.
Two of my favorite people. Yeah.
Yeah.
They were so good.
Yeah. Ronnie and Lonnie. Okay, now, thank you. Okay, it brings us to resolution number 2022-055, reinstating all city advisory bodies, and I believe you have that, Councilmember Somerville.
Resolution number 2022-055, reinstating all city advisory bodies, and let the rest be read into the record. So move.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any questions or discussion?
I just want to clarify that they will be meeting in person in council chambers.
Yeah.
By
Seeing no hands for question or discussion, Mr. Halinga, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Wilcoxen,
yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Somerville,
Yes.
Mayor Richardson,
Yes.
Councilmember Morgan,
Yes.
Councilmember Simmons,
Yes.
Mr. Jones Chance.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Next, we have board and commission nominations.
Mayor, resolution 2022-048 was removed from the consent and added here.
Resolution number 2022-048, resolved by the council of the city of Ypsilanti that the following non-residents be appointed to the city of Ypsilanti boards and commissions as indicated below, and that the rest be read into the record.
Support.
Oh, I so move.
Support.
Questions and discussion, yeah.
So I actually believe that authorities should be permanently removed from the consent agenda. We should consider them separately. And that would mean the DDA and Yucca. I believe they have, different powers and different authority and different money. And so we should take a little bit more time to consider them. My issue with the appointments to the authorities here is that we don't have many residents on the DDA currently. And as you can see in the next agenda item, the reappointments are all non-residents. I think we can do a little bit of legwork to find some folks from town who own businesses to join the DDA before we consider these two. I think it makes sense.
So are you suggesting a amendment?
Yeah, I would suggest that we reappoint Lynn Settles, and that's it.
Council, if I may, the correct motion would be to divide the question and remove Lynn Settles and handle them separately.
Sure, I would move to divide the question and remove Lynn Settles.
Support.
It's been moved and supported to divide and support Lynn Settles. Any questions, discussions? Okay, seeing none, would you call the question, or would you call the roll, please?
This is to remove Lynn Settles from the.
This is to divide. the
This
question.
would
We're
be,
dividing the question. Right, okay.
Mayor Pro Tem Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Somerville,
No.
Mayor Richardson,
Yes,
Councilmember Morgan,
Yes.
Councilmember Simmons.
Can you clarify, what are we voting on? Dividing the question?
Dividing the question and handling Lynn Settles' reappointment to the Arts Commission separately.
No.
Mr. Jones Chance,
Yes.
Councilmember Wilcoxen,
Yes.
motion carries with 5 yes and 2 no.
thank you. Now, would you direct us in the next step of that?
So council will now have to vote on a resolution to reappoint Lynn Settles. And then we'll again have to vote on the appointments of the other two individuals to the DDA.
I move to reappoint Lynn Settles to the Arts Commission.
Support.
It's been moved and supported to reappoint Lynn Settles to the Art Commission. Questions, discussion? Seeing none, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Somerville,
Yes.
Mayor Richardson,
Yes,
Councilmember Morgan,
Yes.
Councilmember Simmons,
Yes.
Mr. Jones Chance,
Yes.
Councilmember Wilcoxen,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Brown,
Yes.
motion carries unanimously.
thank you. Okay, that covers that.
No,
That covered that.
Council,
entire-
so you still would have to vote on both of these resolutions with a division of the question. So you'd have to vote on the two appointments to the DDA, because that was put on the table and the question was divided. So you just have to handle these separately.
These are only nominations on the agenda. We're voting on Mr. Ritchie and Ms. Gillette.
That's correct, Mayor.
Okay. Is there questions, discussion? I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand.
Oh, it's okay. You can check. Yeah, relevant to both Ms. Gillette and Mr. Ritchie. I nominated both of them. Councilmember Mayor Pro Tem Brown nominated Mr. Ritchie, and Mayor Richardson nominated Ms. Gillette. I guess this issue's come up before since I've been on council about non-residents in the DDA. It's very difficult to find residents who are also engaged with the businesses in the DDA districts. When I saw Ms. Gillette's application, I found hers to be pretty unique, given the salon. I haven't known that we've had much representation from that type of business in the DDA districts. With Mr. Ritchie, I think that what was stuck out to me for that application was just the diversity in age, and people involved in the DDA. It's only been pretty recent that council members could even nominate people to the DDA, and part of that was to take in professional consideration of all the different characteristics that make up good boards for people who volunteer to apply for them. So I would be supporting both of them, and I would encourage others to support them now as well.
Any other questions, comments? Mr. Jones Chan.
Yeah, we've had a couple of, I think one of the vacancies to the DDA was somewhat longstanding. The other one was very recent. Both nominations came up almost immediately after the second nomination. So I think if we tried a little harder, we could probably find some residents to fill these spots. And I agree that it's a good thing that council will now be able to make nominations, because it does mean that we have some responsibility to search out folks from within our community before we consider non-residents, especially for authorities. including DDA and the
Mr. Morgan.
I do agree that these boards are extremely important, and vetting for them should be its own process. And I do think that we could, well, first it shows our failure to stack our boards with residents of Ypsilanti that are wanting to put their time and energy in. I think we can still find more. I do agree with Councilmember Jones-Chance. I do think allowing some of these non-residents, again, I do believe of being a business owner or being just involved or having interest is good. However, I think over the last 3 or 4 months, we've had an influx of non-residents on our boards. I do think I personally wanted to go on record and vote against a friend of mine who was a non-resident, and Anthony Williamson, because of the consistency I wanted to maintain on record. I do think residents should be considered first, and then non-residents second. So I'll state that for the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. Mr. Jones-Chance.
Yeah, I also think we have to be a little bit more careful and looking at what folks do in terms of business in the district. I tried to search out what Mr. Ritchie's Family LLC did, but I couldn't quite make it out. So, it doesn't necessarily have to be in a storefront. But yeah, I mean, this is why I think we need to consider these separately. And not just push things through on a consent agenda. For authorities specifically, normal boards and commissions is, it's a different thing. But I would not at this time support either of these. We just don't have enough options. And I do believe that we have to get into a habit of searching out city residents for our city authorities before. And these did come rather quickly.
Mr. Wilcoxon.
Thank you, Mayor. To address a point, this is an aside, it's not relevant to these two people, but I think that all of our boards and commissions should be taken off the consent agenda. I suggested that in the past and thought that that motion had passed, but I continue to see this coming up on consent agenda. So I will continue to take it off, or I will make a motion after this to do that. I'm looking at the 3 people that are below this, and they're all non-residents as well. Those folks have been on there for various amounts of time. And I'm just curious about what percentage of the people that own businesses in the DDA districts are actually residents of the city. And how many people currently on the DDA are actually residents of the city.
I mean, I would say when I was on the DDA, I think maybe there were 3 or 4 of us.
And now?
Can anyone give us
The
an
majority
answer
are
to that?
non-resident.
The vast majority of downtown business owners are not residents. A lot of them live in the township. I want to say, and looking at what I know, the vast majority are not residents, just in general, not DDA only, but a lot of our business owners are non-residents. So that's why when you find the 1 or 2, we try to get them on. The other problem is a lot of the residents who are business owners that live in the city have already been on the DDA board for many, many, many years, and they've exhausted out of the position. So it's really hard, like a Royce from Tower Inn or a Linda French or a Sandy French, although Sandy French, I guess, doesn't live in the city. There's a lot of people like that who are business owners in the downtown who have been on the DDA board for decades and have exhausted out. And so you're really pulling from a very limited number of people. Because we are a small city, it does get challenging to own a business and live in the city. That's just a general statement. We can get those numbers, but it is more of a challenge than you would think. I assure you.
own a business, you just can't own a business from this.
So is our plan just not to, I guess, be off the vote on these? Never mind, we'll just vote.
Let me call a question for the next,
Sure.
Okay,
for the next question.
or I don't quite know what you're calling the question.
Oh, I thought we had to go through the next one. We just went over land settles. I was moving to call the question to the next, for the next appointment.
Which would be,
You have to vote on the DDA. The question was divided, so you still have to vote on this resolution for the DDA nominations.
all right, so we will be voting. Would you read the motion that we are voting on, please?
You're voting on the appointments of Melissa Gillette and can't recall his first name, but Mr. Ritchie.
Would you call the roll? What would you call the roll for the question vote, please? He voted, no, he called he moved to be called.
We don't have to do it.
Okay, you're removing your.
I removed my call to question vote.
Okay, thank you. Okay, would you call the
Mayor Richardson.
on the resolution? Oh,
Mayor,
you're calling me, okay. No.
Councilmember Morgan,
No.
Councilmember Simmons,
Yes.
Mr. Jones Chance. No. Councilmember Wilcoxen, Mayor Pro Tem Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Somerville,
Yes.
Councilmember Wilcoxen.
Doesn't matter, Steve. No, Steve, it doesn't matter. You have to have 5 votes for non-residents.
You said, what did you say about 5 votes?
You need 5 votes to approve a non-resident, so.
Oh. So there's not 5
Yes.
votes. So
Can I ask a clarifying question for the clerk?
Motion fails.
So for people who apply and then get voted down, it's their application becomes void.
Their application is still active, but they did not get appointment.
So I guess they could be reconsidered.
they can be, yes, they
I
can
mean,
be.
we don't have a,
They can be reconsidered if the prevailing side decides to bring them back.
Okay, so anybody who voted no. Okay, awesome.
Is that taken care of?
Yes, that item is taken care of.
All right, thank you. Were there any,
so we have 2 vacancies and 3 people coming in.
well, some of these appointments are until much later, till 2 or 3 months later. So we still have an at every meeting, we'll still have an operating DDA. Okay, does that bring us to the awards and nominations, Mr. Halenga?
Yes, Mayor, there are 3 nominations for the DDA. Paula Agilani, Kai Hinton, Andy French. And then following that is council proposed business.
Okay, thank you. So they will be on the next, will they be on the next agenda, considering what the vote we just took? Yes.
Yes, the
All right.
3 reappointments were nominated this meeting and will appear on the next agenda.
Can I ask who
approval.
nominated them?
I don't have that information with me right now. And I'm scared to put anything else on my computer for fear that the internet will die.
Yes.
Um,
I put them on the agenda. I don't have the nominations.
For Clerk Kalanga, I'm sorry, I think you're getting lots of questions right now. For what Councilmember Wilcoxen said about not putting nominations on the consent agenda, do we have to make a motion to do that, or can we just ask that?
It's the mayor's agenda.
Oh, okay. So Mayor.
So, okay, that wasn't added to the agenda. You brought it up, but we did not add it in.
Oh, right.
Okay,
No, that's fine.
well,
That's still not the announcements.
no, it won't get long. All right, we can, Okay, we're going to the council proposed business. So Mr. Wilcox.
I would like to move that we remove commissions, all commissions and all appointments from the consent agenda so that we can have discussion of those. Okay.
I do have a question here. It was moved and supported, but I have a question for the clerk. As they are presented, as nominations are presented on the agenda, are we open according to the rules to discuss them at that time? Okay.
I believe so, but I defer to the city attorney.
All right, thank you.
I believe per Robert's rules, once a motion is made and seconded, then discussion is mandated, but not until.
Wait, I can't, could you say it again, please?
Per Robert's rules of order, when a motion is made and seconded, then discussion may happen or should happen. If the motion is not made and seconded, then there will be no discussion. Does that answer your question?
Okay, so even though they're presented as nominations on the agenda, we cannot discuss them until they are brought back?
Until a motion is made. Per Robert's rules, no action, no debate, no action, nothing happens without a motion being brought forward by two council members, being one, the maker of the motion, and two, whoever seconds it, then the floor opens to debate it. If it does not get the support of at least two to put it on the floor, then there's no reason to debate or discuss. Does that clarify?
Yeah, there's no resolution to consider and nomination.
Right.
So it's
Okay.
just informational purposes right now.
All right.
Right, it's just a heads up.
Mayor Pro Tem.
No, I'm just clarifying. Oh, no, I'm okay. Steve.
Okay. Okay, it's been moved and second. Would you like to restate your motion, please?
Sure. Going forward, I would like to have nominations for commissions and boards and authorities to be their own items on the agenda and not included in the consent agenda.
And there wasn't support for that. So it's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion on the motion? Mr. Jones Chance.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good idea. I think it's responsible given our new abilities to nominate people. And also, I think in the past few meetings, we've seen many people come to actually deliver comments about their own nominations. And I think it would be nice for them, if we did want to ask them questions or things like that, for them to be able to make their case. And it seems like some of them already expect that. So yeah, I think this is a good thing.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
I have a question.
Yes.
So just to clarify from Brian, are you saying that you want council to ask people nominees questions when they come in public comment?
Well, not during public comment, but if they're around during the discussion of the motion to appoint them, then I don't see why we wouldn't.
I mean, that seems like mass chaos, but
So
I
that's-
guess I'm just,
I'm
is
sorry.
everybody on board with that,
I'm
or-
not understanding the chaos of asking
you'd essentially be
one
interviewing
person
somebody every time
questions.
you nominate them.
Well, I thought the problem was we didn't have enough people to nominate, so maybe that wouldn't be such an ongoing issue.
I'm just trying to get clarification if that's the practice that we're gonna be using. We're gonna be interviewing people when they get nominated to boards and commissions, because that'd be a new practice.
What I understand him saying is that not that we would interview people when they are nominated. Many will not even be here when the nomination is made, and just as it is now. But I understood what I understood him saying is that those that are here, if we do have a question for them, that we could possibly ask them the question. Oh, that was what I
Okay, I have
understood,
some
and I'm just
follow-up
saying what I
questions.
understood him to
Yeah,
say.
just like logistically, how does that work with like procedures? We can just move to allow the person to enter the discussion with council?
Were you talking about at the time of voting, when there's an actual resolution? I thought that's what it was about.
Yeah,
Not
so-
the nomination, but at the.
Yeah, so when the item comes up for us to vote on, if the person is present for council, would council have to move to include the person that's present at the meeting into the discussion?
Yes. No, they
Logistically, how
handle
does
it
this
like
work?
they handle any other resolution. They would move it and support it, and if someone is present to say something, they say something.
Yeah.
That's kind of like how we do.
Do it now.
That's how we do it.
All right, all right. Put that sooner in the agenda, if that's how we're going to do it.
Yeah.
You know, maybe before.
Council, if I may, the purpose of having a nomination meeting prior to approval is so council has the opportunity to reach out to those individuals. This should all be happening prior to the meeting for you to properly vet the individual. That's why it is on the consent agenda, because that is assumed that is happening.
Thank you, clerk.
Thank you. Mr. Wilcoxon.
I agree with that 100%. So the questions to people should be, if there's something that comes up that was not addressed in those, people should be calling people and vetting them. My motion is to separate them as well, not have clusters of, maybe I should specify that. To not have clusters and just say, yeah, we're gonna do all of
So
That's what I understood. That's what I.
Oh, wait.
So to
that's not
separate the
what I-
question and
Not approving slates of candidates.
Right.
Oh, that is not what I understood your motion to be.
well, I didn't state that.
Oh,
That's why
okay.
you didn't understand it.
Okay, okay, I'm
But
like,
that's what I understood
no,
it to be.
I will stick with the-
That's all I thought.
I will stick with that.
Because I'm like,
Just keep your.
So if I could have clarification, is your motion to remove boards and commissions appointments from the consent agenda and have them all handled individually? Or did you want to, if you would like to consider something further, to then divide the question, which is what was done tonight? Because
I'm
that,
going to.
that
stick
seems a
with
little efficient.
My original motion, and in the future, if people want to separate, they can do it again.
yes. Thank
I'd like to call the question.
Support.
It's been moved and second to call the question.
So just so council is aware, to call the question, the chair of the meeting has to call on you to make that motion.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Yes. Well, that's what I thought. That's why I was surprised. Okay. Mr. Lingo, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Morgan?
Question on Councilmember Wilcoxon's.
Yeah, this is on the motion to remove board and commission nominations, or I'm sorry, appointments from the consent agenda.
Yes.
Councilmember Simmons,
Yes.
Mr. Jones Chance.
Yes.
Councilmember Wilcoxon,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Somerville,
Yes.
Mayor Richardson,
Yes,
motion carries unanimously.
thank you. Mr. Wilcoxon, do you have any other council proposed business?
Since we haven't had any commission meetings, I met with a couple business owners in near the transit center today. And came up with some short-term possibilities for the problems that have been occurring down there, which we discussed at the last meeting in terms of nuisance crimes, things of that sort. So came up with some short-term solutions for some of those things, and obviously the bigger problem is going to have to be a longer discussion. So I will bring that to, I will check it out with the city staff and bring this up at the next time. In light of the recent communications confusions in the city, I'd like to start conversations about having a comprehensive communications plan put in place and get that started. Tom's been around for a while, and I'd like to see that that started as soon as possible, so we can have a more concise way of dealing with media and communications within the city itself. So, that's it.
Thank you. Ms. Simmons.
Thank you. This sounds great, Steve, with communications. So, yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I think the only thing I'll mention just to everyone is that it's we should be thinking about annual reviews for our clerk and city manager. So just wanted to bring that, maybe we can discuss that more at the next meeting, process and more timing. So,
Thank you.
can we just add that to the agenda now?
Could you talk a little bit more?
Yeah. Oh, I was wondering if we could maybe just even add it to the agenda. Discussion for the timing, planning for the review process.
Yes.
Okay. Clerk Kalanga, I don't know if you caught that. Okay, thank you. And I think that's all I have today. Thank you.
And welcome back. You missed a couple of meetings. We're glad to have you back. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
You didn't miss it? What is going on tonight?
Andy's sassy
It's not a full moon, so let's move on. I was joking. Okay, Mr. Morgan,
I have no business in that meeting. Thank you.
thank you. Ms. Somerville.
I have some business. I'm joking. I've had a lot of sugar today. Okay, my council proposed business. This will be on the next agenda. I've been working with Mr. Barr and Mr. Jones Chance on a resolution to bring forward for council's approval to officially engage the city in our bicentennial. Next year is our 200th anniversary. A group of volunteers began engaging around bicentennial probably 6 months ago. I became involved in November, and then I quickly got Mr. Jones Chance involved. After talking with Mr. Barr, we came to kind of a understanding that the best and most ethical and transparent way to go about planning bicentennial in official capacity is to create a citizen commission. Council members are not allowed to be on commissions, so we would have liaisons. Some of the elements that would be in the resolution would be things around, the involvement in terms of the city being a fiduciary. That's the biggest roadblock for the volunteers. So Mr. Barr actually has referenced a state statute that allows municipalities to do so. And then just in talking with Mr. Jones Chance and Mr. Barr, council liaisons make the most sense. And one of the things that'll be in there is just a recommendation that there's one liaison from each ward, so there's balance. And then one thing, just as like a side to keep fresh for people currently on council and people who are still around that have been on past councils. We've had conversations, I guess, in the volunteer setting to make sure that all past living council members are honored in the process as well as current. We'll be honorary members of this whole commission. So yeah, that'll be on the next agenda. There's a lot of people that have been involved so far, but in talking with Brian and Mr. Barr, it just makes the most sense to be as transparent as possible. So all meetings would follow the same rules that other boards and commissions do. OMA, and then the one thing I forgot to mention is Tom is actually so far has been the point person on staff. And I talked to him after talking with Mr. Barr last week, and it's my understanding that he is comfortable and willing to continue that role, but in an official capacity. So we won't have to, I guess, I know other staff are already overseeing other boards officially. So that's all, that's my update. It'll be on the next agenda.
It's already done.
Yeah, sorry, I've been working, we've been going in circles, and once I finally talked to Mr. Barr in late December about it, he sent me some information, and then I had time to look at it, and it's like, this was all kind of there, but we weren't looking in the right spots for the information on how to actually do it officially, so it's all coming together now.
Thank
That's
you.
all. Awesome, sounds great.
Well done, yes,
Exciting.
thank you. Kudos. Mayor Pro Tem.
Oh, I'm just looking forward to meeting with my commission again. So I will be glad to have a report with everyone for human relations once we have a meeting.
All right, thank you. And Mr. Jones Chan.
Nothing from me.
Nothing for you. Okay, I did have a couple of things. One, and it somewhat goes along with Mr. Wilcox's comments. I would like for the city manager and the clerk to begin to look at a date when we can have a work session around the police. We're having too many questions and calls. I think all of council are receiving calls and questions, and there's too much discussion going on in the city around it. So I would just like for us to have a work session to just talk about the communication and just talk about what's going on with our police department. Where I ran into something, someone sent me something today, a posting that was on Facebook, but I think it would give us an opportunity to just to discuss it. We don't have time at our council meetings, and I think a work session is in order. If we would begin to look for a date, please.
Yeah, so yeah, I think we should talk about it so we know how to set the agenda. To what the topics will be, that would be helpful.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I said, I look forward to us meeting so that we can set an agenda, so we would know what the topics are. Just kind of general, what you just explained, so I'd like to have a target, so we're not just everywhere in the forum.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I think an agenda would be good.
Oh, we will have an agenda. Yes, no. I'm not saying we won't. That's what I'm just saying, that I'm just asking for preparation for that. Okay? All that goes into there. The other comment that I had tonight is, and I had prepared something and didn't bring it with me, but I just would like for council to make a statement condemning the war in Ukraine, the Russian invasion in Ukraine. I don't know if anyone else here, but I do have found out that I have a dear friend, I did not know her, I've known her for years, did not realize that her father was from Ukraine. She still has family there. And in talking with her, found out there also, we have many other residents that are within the city that have relatives or friends there. I believe very sincerely that what Russia's invasion of a solemn country is something that should not ever ought to be. It's just like someone coming into our own individual home to take over. I don't believe anybody around the council table or in this chamber at this time would just want to sit back and let that happen. I do applaud the Ukrainians, how they are standing up and defending themselves. And I would like for us as a city council, as a city, to issue a statement of condemnation, but also a statement of support, and that we would set out to and set forth and put forth and ask to our residents that we would begin to do whatever we can to support them, whether it be by sending clothing, whether it be by supporting food, whether it be by supporting an agency that is already in the midst of supporting Ukraine and the Ukrainian people.
I think that sounds great. I know we did a similar thing maybe 3 years ago, but yeah, someone who's family background is from Eastern Europe and, whatever.
Okay, could you speak?
Oh, I just said, yeah, I mean, as someone whose family background is Eastern European and they've got the rights important, and I condemn it as well and would love to do something to then support in a, whatever we can. So looking forward to talking about that. What else
Thank
can we
you.
do?
And we're open for suggestions on how we should do that. It should be just a committee, ad hoc committee of council, along with a staff person to pull it together, or if there's a staff person that we could ask to take that plan on.
Ask a clarifying question.
All right.
Do you mean, okay, let's back up. Do you mean you want like an event or something?
No, not an event, but it would need to be, certainly we would need to make it known that council is taking the stand, and that council, that there would be at least three people from council, if we do it council, to organize how to find the agency that we would use, and how we would reach out to members of our community to instir them and encourage them to give.
Okay. Okay, yeah, I think like to start, I would be supportive of having just like a general resolution to condemn
Right.
such things. And then just one comment, because in my other world, my job, we're getting questions from residents about, friends and relatives that are still, that escaped and are in like other places but can't get into the country. So I think in the coming weeks, we'll learn more about places in Michigan that are going to be housing refugees. So we might get more information in the next few weeks. I'll keep everybody updated when I find out.
That sounds great. And I'm happy to take a stab at a resolution. I mean, if you want, I can.
I can share one that was adopted today in the
Thank you.
Senate. It got adopted, was by person.
All right, thank you.
Okay. So do we want to do that from the resolution? It would be three council members, correct? If the resolution would, we need three council members support.
Okay, I support. I'll send you the language.
Okay. All right, I guess. Okay, that's great. And then we can maybe consider the other stuff as we learn more.
And Mr. Halinga is about to correct.
Two
us,
council
please.
members can get something on an agenda, so you just need support from one other council member, which you have.
Right,
Okay.
okay. I was talking about the resolution.
Well, resolution to get a
Right, okay,
resolution
thank you.
on. Yeah.
All right. Awesome.
Or we can just, since I called it, we can just,
Yeah, whatever.
leave
It's
it,
all good.
yes, for resolution.
Okay.
But Mr. Halinga, okay, you're gonna work on,
I can send him the exact.
The exact
language that was
one.
adopted by the Senate today.
all right, thank you.
All right, awesome.
All right, so we will look forward to that being on our next agenda. Okay. Okay, that is all that I have for my comments. And communications from our city manager. It's nice to hear from you again.
Thank you. Staff and I are working on the budget right now, and we started our department reports. It's going pretty well. In our discovery of some of the items that council listed as goals, of course, they tie in with our budget, and specifically, I'm referring to the bathrooms in the parks. And so it's come to our attention that we probably need to come to council with a work session to present what we received from OHM in the past, of what that would cost and what that would look like, and have council to make some decisions on how they would like to implement them. If it would be in all the parks that were in that report, or some of them, like a phased approach, so that we can accurately put it in our budget, so that we can meet that target. So we're looking at, I forgot what date we talked about. I think, was it March?
April 12th.
April 12th. So check your calendars, you'll get something, but I kind of wanted to put that out. And as we come across some items that correlate with our goals, we might want to reach out to you so that, you know, the budget adequately reflects those goals. So, and I think that's all I have.
All right, thank you very much. And we now have, future location for city council meetings. I believe that, personally, I believe that we're ready to go back into our chambers. And after all of our technical difficulties tonight, I believe that there is great support for that. When we moved to the, here to the Freight House, where there was a March 1st date set for the halting of all other commissions. And with the regulations that are being lifted and the changes that are being made, I do believe that we can go back to city chambers for our March 15th council meeting. Are there any objections? I dare you. Okay, thank you. We are now open once again for public comment. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak? I don't see anyone in chambers here, but is there anyone on virtual?
If anyone attending virtually would like to make comment, please raise your hand now.
That's us. You should know that.
Council, no one has indicated that they would like to make comment.
Okay. Seeing none, I do believe, Mr. Morgan, you have your favorite resolution.
The only one I ever get these days. But thank you. Resolution number 2022-056, resolved by the council of the city of Ypsilanti that the council meeting be adjourned. So moved.
And support. Mr. Morgan, next time you're gonna have so many resolutions. I agree.